Hi, everybody. I hope everybody's enjoying their Tarot Tuesday. It's me, Sarah G. Witch MD. Hi, everybody. We had a little snafu. It's me. It's Sarah G. Witch MD. That is the master of divination here for you guys. Um, I am coming to you live from the office. I do have a guest today. It's my friend Jarlyn of Intuitive Readings by Jarlyn, and I'm just waiting for her to pop on. Let's make sure that she can get here. See, this is our second show, so we're trying to work out all the kinks here. Oh, here she is. Hey, Jarlyn, how are you tonight?
I'm fantastic. And you on this full moon?
Oh my God. Let's just say it's been quite the doozy of a day. And I know that we've been talking earlier back and forth a little bit, and yesterday as well. This full moon, blue moon energy has been something else. Now, that's a really good point because everybody kind of looks at things differently. How do you feel about full moons? Do you get tired? Do you get like hyped up? Like what happens?
It depends on the moon, to be honest with you. Either I'm super tired, dragging around, or I'm really hyper. This super full moon, I have to say, I have a lot of energy. I feel like I don't know what I should be doing, but I should be doing something.
Isn't that funny? Yeah, I'm the opposite this time. So if I seem a little slower, it's because I am pooped. My butt is kicked. And sometimes that energy of that big full moon, especially a blue moon, which is two full moons in 1 month, that's what a blue moon is, you can feel either way. So, I feel like it's something that's just kicking my butt tonight. So I can't wait to go night later on.
Well,
But
been sleep.
I know. And then usually what happens too is that I'll wake up at 2 o'clock and be like, why am I wide awake now? Exactly. So Jarlyn, we kind of had a little mix up, and thank you so much to Sarah Paranormal who helped facilitate this today. We did have a little bit of a snafu earlier trying to get everything together. Obviously, full moon energy happening. But Jarlyn, tell me a little bit about your business and what you have going on so that the viewers out there can see and understand who you are.
I do a lot of mediumship. I'm an intuitive psychic medium. I do a lot of one-on-one readings right now. I go to different places. I really love the paranormal as well. So I guess that's it in a nutshell. I love working with the other side. I love connecting with the other side.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree. And I feel like a lot of people don't necessarily understand what connecting to the other side looks like. But as individuals, we do it very differently. Everybody has their own process of how they kind of make sure that they're getting the right messages or the right things that they need to relay to certain people or to understand for yourself. What do you normally do to get into if there is some sort of connection, or how do you normally get kind of yourself settled in that way?
Usually, I believe in free will, so I really love when I have permission to be into someone else's energy. I'm not a person who would walk up to somebody and just start saying things due to the fact I don't know how emotional they are, how hurt they are, where they are in their healing process. So that's how I work. Uh, Not wrong or right, but a lot of times I have these cards and I'll have people put down whatever they want. Pick a color, put down whatever you want to know about. And a lot of times the message I say downloaded will just come into my mind and I'll
Yeah.
tell them the answers to their questions.
I love that word downloaded because in today's day and age, it really makes sense because we know that we can download files when it comes to our phone or our laptop or anything that we're doing. And that's exactly the way that I would describe it is a download. And sometimes it's not the message per se, sometimes it's a picture, sometimes it's a thing, sometimes it's an act or an activity or something like that. All of those little snippets or downloads as we call them are important, not for us as the reader or as the person, the medium, but for the person who we're talking to. And I think it's really cool that you give them a choice and free will. I agree with that. I think that that's really important. So what are those little cards for? They just write whatever they want on them and it's like a little affirmation or wish card. I love that idea.
Yeah, I have yellow, blue, teal, and usually there's a message with the cards as well, like depending on what color they pick.
Hmm.
So I feel like there's a little message with the cards as well. And I just feel like we're little walking computers. I have this big bowl of crystals. Our computers work with crystals. So of course
Yeah.
we're feeling, we all feel energy.
Yeah, and I love that we are walking computers, right?
Yeah,
And we know that sometimes we need to recharge or sometimes we need to reset or sometimes we need something that is a little bit of an upgrade for us and what we need to do like a computer or like an electronic. And we know when computers and all of our other electronics within the world are not working, it's because of planetary shifts or energetic shifts. Is there something going on right now besides the full moon? I know that you're really well versed in what the world is kind of up to.
well, I don't know if I would say that, but I know Venus is in retrograde right now, I believe until September 4th or 3rd. Don't
Hmm.
quote me though. I know in the beginning of September. And I know that a lot of people have been going through some shifts in relationships. Through my readings, it seems like a lot of people are
Hmm.
coming in with shifts in relationships, friendships, romantic partners, their children, you name it. It seems like there's
Right.
a lot of shifts in relationships, but I do feel like it's just like you said, a reworking of our energy and getting us where we need to be.
Hmm. And Venus controls our love, right? So that controls kind of how we feel about things and how we show our love to things. So
Ab-
that would make sense if it's going in reverse or in retrograde, because that means that things are a little wonky, the way that we're showing or the way that we need to be loved. So it's not just romantic relationships, it's friendships, it's, even just copacetic or, that platonic
Or
kind of,
there.
yeah, environment.
Yeah, absolutely. But I believe the shifts are just releasing what no longer works for us and finding a new way to communicate, a new way with that person if they're, in your family, or just releasing that person if they're not good for you.
Exactly. And we talked about this yesterday about our own personal journeys that we have going on. And some of this makes complete sense and resonates. And I mean, and I hope that what we're saying, it doesn't mean that this shift is going to change everything and like everything's going to be crazy. You can feel it, and that's the way that I describe it is that you can literally feel kind of maybe an adverse reaction to something or a little bit of a kind of this inquisitive kind of feeling about how it is that you're progressing or how it is that you normally would do something and you don't feel that you're called to do that. So that's what a shift kind of is. It doesn't mean like literally everything just falls apart.
Absolutely.
Sometimes that right, and sometimes that does mean that as well, but I feel that we change because of these uncomfortable shifts or these uncomfortable kind of feelings and energies. Because if everything was status quo and stayed the same, we wouldn't change. We just kind of
No,
keep it the way that it is.
and I just feel it's teaching us to have healthy boundaries with people. And
Yeah,
sometimes, we just give until we don't have anything left. And it's just a time to have, I keep telling myself, it's a time to know, just because we don't know where we are when things are unsettled, know that it's positive. We're going to come out in a positive light. It's just a time right now, just, a moment. Have that faith to know that everything's going to work out. I really believe it's going to work out.
Right. I 150% of me believe that that is what we need to tell people, and that, this uncomfortable, or if you're having kind of, again, that adverse reaction to certain things that you normally would be okay with, that conditioning is that catalyst for some sort of change for you. And, as a reader and as somebody who sees people who are looking for advice, especially in matters of love and relationships and friendships, that is a testament that goes across the board. We have to make sure that we are setting those healthy boundaries in order for ourselves to kind of move forward within our lives. So I would agree with you on that 100%.
It helps us focus more and be more in tune. Like I always feel like mediums are like athletes. We really need to take care of ourselves as well, because we want to give the best to our clients. We want to help them heal, give them the best possible session that they can have.
Exactly. I mean, I don't feel like an athlete when I eat chips and dip and I get all bloated, but
But
um, energetically, I totally would agree with that. And I also think that as readers and as people who are effectively downloading messages for certain people, and that would be our clients or our querents, right? Is that we kind of have to take care of ourselves. So I just want to touch on the fact that our relationship, the way that I met you, was based on, kind of gravitating towards each other and then moving forward within a reading perspective. Because as readers, it's super hard to read for ourselves. So we always want to make sure that we trust the person, or we really have a great kind of energetic connection to the person that is giving us a reading. So I feel like it's,
actually,
yeah. It's also important to say that as readers or as people who are sensitive or intuitive in nature, make sure that you're trusting that vibe. And I 100% trust the vibe that we had. And it was really fun to sit down with you and have a great reading in a reciprocating kind of way. So I'd love to do that again.
well,
But
anytime. I agree with you 100%. I'll tell you a little secret. I really don't have that many readings, and I'm very choosy about who I have a reading with. And my reading with you was off the charts spectacular.
oh,
And I felt
it,
so comfortable. Not only do you get a reading, you get that nurturing advice, that caring, that healing is so much more to a reading, and the way it's delivered, and the
mhm.
passion you have for people.
Oh, I thank you. And I would reciprocate that and say that that is exactly the way that you are as well. And to have that space that you feel connected to that person, that there's no judgment, there's no ill will or ill intent. I always say in my little office, whatever happens here. You have a safe place here. I have a box of tissues under my table here so that they're at the ready just in case, because what we're talking about can be very sensitive in nature, especially when it comes to relationships and love in the way that we feel. So having space and holding space, and saying like, this download or this situation, this message isn't for me. And I think that that's really something that when people are looking for some sort of guidance or advice, especially, that they need to hear that. Like, it's not, I'm not going to take this and benefit. This is for you. This is for your benefit, right?
Well, absolutely don't see people at their best times. We see people when they're going through a difficult time, and we're here to help them through that difficult time. When you lose somebody, there's no problem solving. There's no way. It's just helping them get through, giving them the messages that their loved ones want them to have, so that they know that they didn't suffer, that they're still with them. They witness them every day,
Hmm.
and they're doing okay. They're doing fine. And,
Hmm.
and you need that to get through sometimes.
Right. I feel like it's a lot of grief counseling as well. And when we talk to the other side, or we kind of make sure that we're relaying those messages, a lot of people will ask certain things like, are they okay? Like you just said. And I always tell people they're in the best place. There's no hate, there's no anger, there's no animosity. Yeah, there's personality, which is totally different, but there's no jealousy. So they're not feeling the human emotions that we feel down here. So it's nice that you can kind of provide that little bit of support and that little bit of sympathetic kind of energy to that person as they go through their process of grief. Do you feel that you talk to a lot of people who are going through that kind of a situation? Because I feel I do.
I do. I have to say, probably 80 to 85% of my clients,
Mm.
it's a lot of mediumship and connecting to the other side for them to get those messages. But I call it a heaven and earth reading that I do. So I just give it up to the universe. Whatever is meant to come through for them, I let the universe prioritize, and whatever is meant to come through, I just allow it to come through, and I don't hold anything back. Whatever they need for their journey is, I just want to be that conduit for it.
Hmm. Yep, I agree with that. I think that that's a great way to put it because that is, exactly what the problem or the situation kind of looks like. It's heaven and earth, right? Our loved ones who have passed on to the next plane are in the best possible situation, which is what we believe it to be as heaven, right? But there's still earthly things that we have to kind of go through and understand before we kind of get to the other side of that grief or understand that message a little bit differently. So I think that that's awesome that you say that, it's just heaven and earth. This is yin and yang. This is yes and no. It's how you change your life going forward based on what we're telling you. That kind of a situation is really important, especially when we deal with people who are looking for those mediumship kind of experiences. Now, here's a question for you. Do you ever feel that you can't connect to certain people when, let's say, a client comes in and they want to connect to their great aunt Esther, and Aunt Esther doesn't want to connect to them? Do you feel like you ever get that situation?
No. Well, I very rarely,
Hmm.
not very often, let's put it that way, not often. Sometimes I'll make a joke, like, oh, I know you're here, but Uncle Charlie showed up. But, um, no, not usually. A lot of times, though, I find with the other side, I know that we discussed this before, and I'm almost positive we have the same views. If somebody did something at their own hand in this earthly plane, a lot of times they might need a little bit of coaxing because they feel bad for what they put their family through, the hurt that's going on. And a lot of times I'll just say to that person, in your head, just tell them it's okay. It's
Hmm.
our time. And almost 99% of the time, 100%, they do show up. But I do
Yeah.
find that with the mediumship sometimes, if it's, and then typically once we get through that, it's full speed
Y-
ahead.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, again, at at their own hand or something that they have caused of their own regard, and that can look many different ways to different people, but they do tend I do find that that energy tends to be a little bit more apprehensive. I think that's probably the best word I can think of. It's not they're shy. They're just kind of like, we want to talk, but we're not sure how this is gonna, because we're kind of gone through this and we feel really badly, and whatever the case may be. I feel the same way, and I know that we have talked about this, that that does happen, but usually, again, with some coaxing or with just a little bit of affirmation that everything's going to be okay from the other person that they're trying to connect to. It's all based on love, is what I say, and sometimes
I
that love looks a little
say,
difficult sometimes.
I just say
So,
safe. You can come through. You're surrounded in love. Exactly what you just said.
mhm, mhm. I love the personality traits of the different people that I've kind of connected to, because, all of a sudden I'll be talking about something and that, they'll say, "Well, I don't like that tattoo she's got," or "I love that tattoo she's got." And it's surprising of the clients or the people looking for those messages from their loved ones, that their personalities really do shine through. Like, I don't know why we're talking about lasagna, but we're talking about lasagna all of a sudden, right? And so we never know exactly
Absolutely. You
what
think
it is.
you think like doing mediumship readings or readings when people, but a lot of times you end up laughing because some of if they do, you know that the medium's legit like Sarah because they have the same personality. They're not going to come through because they've passed and be Mother Teresa. They are who they are. You should
Right.
recognize them for exactly the way they were. And I've had actually people come through and say, "What the hell are you doing here? Why did you go see? What the hell are you doing?" And of course, you're laughing because you're like, "Oh my gosh!" And they're like, "Yep, that's exactly." Or
Right.
a square may fly out, and you're like, "Oh, they used to say that all the time."
Yeah, or their personalities shine through, and that's the best connection validation for the person looking for that love and that connection. I really, there's been so many stories, and I chuckled to myself too because I'm like, let's bring back Great Aunt Esther. Here she's showing up. And I don't know if anybody out there has a Great Aunt Esther, but here she is showing up in her fur coat and looking the nines and smelling like the perfume and with the nails and the hair and and it's so funny because we don't know them, but that's exactly how their loved one remembered them to be. And a lot of mediums and a lot of different kinds of people look at that connection a little bit differently is what I'm trying to see that full moon. But look at that connection a little bit differently, and some people that do connect to the other side will kind of harp on what happened in the last days or that transitionary period that that loved one went through before they got to the other side. And usually for me, they don't necessarily show me that. They don't show a lot of that. Do they do
I
that for
agree
you?
100%. 100. They don't like talking. I've actually had people
Mhm.
say, "I don't want to talk about that."
Yeah, I have too. And the loved one will say, it doesn't matter how I died; it matters how I lived. And sometimes we need to validate who that person is based on how some of their how they have expired in some moments, but it doesn't necessarily define how they lived. And so it's really funny, I do see certain loved ones who have passed that have shown me that they're robust and chopping wood and dancing the night away, right? And yet they were immobile for the last 20 years of their life or what have you. So it's really
And
interesting how
I
that
love
works.
that just shows you that they're back to themselves. They're not suffering anymore. And I love when they come through. And I'm actually so humbled and grateful that they feel the trust to come through us. And
Hmm.
a lot of times, I believe too, as a medium, it depends on the relationship and the urgency of the message. So,
Hmm.
your earthly relationship with whoever has passed, if there's nothing unsaid, your love, love, there are no limitations to love. But if there were, you had a fight before someone passed, unfortunately, that does happen. So, people don't hold a grudge. Just, as much as you
Right.
can, just try to
Right.
not carry that with you. But there's urgencies in some readings depending on the relationships that you've had with that and unfinished business, I'll call it.
Hmm.
And then sometimes they'll come through and they'll be like, with their I'm sorries and get into specifics about the falling out or what have you, or I didn't have my papers in order, my will, my this. I'm so sorry that you're going through all this. Then,
Hmm.
really it just boils down to love, like you said earlier. I love you and I'm here.
Right. Right. And I agree because there's a lot of things that do, go left unsaid, unfortunately, especially with the transition of people. We don't get to tie all the loose ends up. We don't get to dot all the I's and cross the T's. We just don't. We don't get to say, I love you before I leave, and we don't get to finish that thought or that song or that lyric or whatever it is that we try to do. And we being on the earth side, tend to hold on to those things and tend to kind of look at that as that validation of, oh my God, I should have done, I should have been, I should have. But, it doesn't necessarily define that relationship at all. It's just the end part of it or the things that are left unsaid. And you're right. Look at it with love. I got to love that person. That person was part of my life. I got to experience things, and those menial things that don't necessarily seem menial to that one person at the end of the day really don't matter much because our loved ones are here and we're a testament to that as we are relaying those messages, right? So,
Absolutely.
and here we are telling you that grandma didn't care that you weren't there when she passed. She doesn't care because she's right there on the side of you.
Absolutely. When people didn't make it in time, if they wanted you to be there and witness, they would have hung on. I feel people will hang on for a visit sometimes for something that they really love, or if they don't, it's because they didn't want you to witness that they know that you love them.
Right. It's funny. There is a couple of instances, and the one in my own personal life that it makes a lot of sense. Doing this kind of work and kind of connecting and seeing all different kinds of energies within people and understanding their love for the people who have passed. It's funny that we can kind of turn it around and look at our own life and say that totally makes sense. So my grandfather was going through dialysis in his last days, and he told my stepmom, "Just come get me later. I'll be here. Just come get me later. Go do your thing. I'll be right here." Well, he passed away while he was getting dialysis. And that would have been him. He wouldn't have wanted a lot of fanfare. He wouldn't have wanted people by his side, right? So it's really kind of funny to look at that and say, like, I can experience that within my own life and speak to that and tell people who are in the same situation that they chose to go the way they did, but they're absolutely, that is a choice that they've made. And we kind of have to just understand that to be that is their love for us.
Absolutely. I totally
Yeah.
agree. And another thing, I don't know if you ever get this, but I do feel a little uncomfortable when I get this question. Do you know when so and so is going to pass? I really don't feel that that's anything. I just believe it goes against the
Right.
universal law
Right.
between
Right.
and God, them and the universe, whatever their belief system is. It
Mhm.
has nothing to do really with me.
Right. I do agree with that. And I do, a lot of people will ask because as humans and as we have all these, limitations, and we have all these agendas, and we have all these things that we think about, we want to prepare ourselves for that imminent passing or that big thing that's going to happen. And unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, I feel like it's on the latter as opposed to the former, that we don't know those specifics or those intimate details because we're not supposed to. You know, uh,
Absolutely.
we're supposed to trust that we have, this, trajectory of what things are supposed to happen in the ways that they're supposed to happen. And as the conduits that we are, and that was a great word that you used earlier, we can't pinpoint a death. And there are some people who do that, and that's entirely up to their practice or what they do. But I don't do it. And you're right. I do get asked that a lot.
I just feel ethically, I don't feel comfortable with it.
Nope. And usually, because we kind of put that boundary up and we kind of shut that door a little bit, we don't get that information. So even if somebody asks that question, I'll be like, I don't have that answer for you because I can't, that's not a gift that I would have. I
I'm
don't have
not
that answer
God,
for you.
so or I don't have
Hmm.
that answer, but I know people are curious and like to know. I can sometimes sense a lot of times, well, things aren't really good, but you know, that's not it's not
And
comfortable for
yeah,
me.
and you can always sense sometimes. No, I agree. But sometimes you can sense that somebody's kind of on the periph, or they're kind of transitioning in a certain way. So they'll register, and this is what I say. My terminology is they register on the other side. So it doesn't mean that their physical presence isn't here. It just means that their energy is registering on the other side, and that you know, depending on what's going on, it's very case by case basis. You never know what's happening, but
Absolutely.
they're in the best place that they possibly could be on that next plane, just waiting for everything else to kind of progress in where
Yeah,
they need to be.
I've had some readings like that as well. Dementia people, Alzheimer's.
Dementia.
I've had some
Yep.
people believe it or not, in comas, which I didn't know, and they were registering on the other side. Whether they come back is, but they were visiting, and they're not in, thank goodness, not in that much pain at that time.
Right. I would wholeheartedly agree with that. You know, there are people with memory care issues that do register on the other side. And that kind of brings me to another section of the mediumship, you know, and we could talk about this for hours about what it is, because everybody, again, does things differently. But um, when people do register on the other side, they usually are in the best cases of, you know, I'm with your grandfather, I'm with here, and they show who they're hanging out with. And they actually do this. It's called visioning, and it is, you know, I follow this hospice nurse, you know, on TikTok, and she talks about all of these great things. And I'm like, as a medium, I already kind of knew that, but I didn't know there was a technical term for that, where they actually, as the person is transitioning, they will say, I see your aunt here, and your aunt is not on this earthly plane anymore. She's passed on. So, you know, as we're transitioning to the other side, you do end up seeing people who have connected with loved ones and they're still here.
Absolutely. A lot of times they'll start talking about it too.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know,
And
my mother, I saw my father.
yep. And he's sitting right over there. What do you mean he's sitting over there? You know, our cousin is sitting over there. What are you talking about? Right. You know, but it's not only is it in the mediumship, which cannot be explained, let's put it this way, or scientifically proven in some ways. Because what we do as energy readers is we're, you know, putting our feelers out to the other side to see what we can do as our gift. But it's not scientifically proven that we can do this. It's just affirmation to loved ones. So I find it really interesting that people can say, you know, this is a proven fact. It's called visioning. This is what it is. But that is a form of what we are doing. But I just feel that it's really interesting to say that, you know.
It's so interesting to me that it's not scientifically proven, because to me, I believe that we're all born with instincts, and it's part of our instincts. Is
Hmm.
you and I do it all the time, so it's
Hmm.
like a muscle. We work that muscle out all the time, so it's strong
Yeah.
here for us. But I do believe it's instinctual.
Yep, I agree. And like harkening back to that transition period where people see the people who have passed away, i.e., visioning, babies, younger people also have that instinctual connection to, if we want to call it the energy or spirit or the divine or however, because, you know, how many little kids and how many babies just babble and talk to nobody at all. And, you know, there's been times that I'm like, who are you talking to? And they're talking to somebody, right? And having great
Absolutely.
conversations. And so I think on either side of our lives, that's when we get the best, the most clear messages that we're getting. And lucky for you and I, if lucky or a curse, it depends on how you look at it, right? Is that we as mediums get to understand that and relay those messages as needed. But elderly and the people who are transitioning to the other side, as well as babies, will get that same kind of message within the loved ones kind of coming back. You know, I think that's really cool.
Me too. I really enjoy doing what I do. I feel blessed.
I agree. I do too. And there's a lot of people who don't necessarily, and it's however you align. So, you know, the events that I've done and people that I've connected with and just talked to, sometimes the connection isn't there. I don't take offense to that. If somebody doesn't want to sit in my chair and get a reading from me, or if they do sit in my chair and it's not coming in the way that they need to, I send them on their way with just love and light and say, go find somebody who can do this. And if you need some names, I got some names, but maybe I'm not that person that can relay that message for you or that information effectively in the way that you need it. You know, I feel like it's all energy based, and sometimes we just don't vibe.
Well, I'm glad that you brought that up, because I do feel you have to want it. Again, it's that free will. Um, a lot of times I'll have people, I want my husband to come, I want my, my best friend to come, and they push them in, through the door, like they're dragging them by their hair to come get a reading. They sit there, and it's not enjoyable for them, So if someone sits in your chair and they're not open to receiving or they don't want to receive, exactly, you just know they're not ready at this time, maybe later.
Right. I feel like that free will has a lot to do with it in the sense of it's not their free will, and maybe they don't want to hear these things because they're not processing what they need to before coming to this conclusion or this kind of situation that we're providing. And
Absolutely.
you will notice that a lot of those people that don't want will sit there like this. And I feel like body language, or they'll sit there and they'll just sit with their hands in their lap, like they won't have a lot of that energy that flows in between because they're not reciprocating. They're not open to that kind of thing. And I've noticed that people will sit there and be like, you know,
I feel like this, but I'm on a table and I'm leaning.
no,
And I,
you're okay.
but I totally agree. The minute you can just feel the energy. The minute they come in the door, it's enough to knock you over. It's like, oh my gosh,
Right. Right.
do a
Yep.
little
And that,
breath.
yeah. And then you're like, ooh, if you don't, you can sit out there. You can sit over there because this isn't going to be fun for you at all. Um,
Exactly.
but as people who deal with energy, and we have to trust ourselves too. So you're right in saying, especially during this time of a big full moon. I think it's a full sturgeon moon, correct? Is that what we're in? And
Third moon, yep. It's a good time.
um
They say to manifest during this moon, which typically I always think the full moon is to take things away, blocks away.
mhm, yeah, you can do. I mean, I feel like as solitary practitioners, because you are also a very solitary practitioner, as am I. You can use the full moon for what, or a new moon for what you need it to be. So if you are feeling that you have a lot of weight that you are carrying around you, it's okay to let go of that during any sort of period of time, especially within a full moon. Because if we think about it, the moon is full, there's so much weight, there's so many things that we're trying to accomplish and do. We can let that go and leave that behind. Whereas with a new moon, it's so empty and we need to kind of fill it up with different things, but it can go however you want. You want to kind of use that for. Now, what do you do on a full moon? Do you do anything in particular?
I like to just put my crystals out. I like to go out under the moon and just let that energy. And sometimes in the winter, no. But what a night tonight we can go out. It's probably need, maybe even need a little jacket, but just let that energy come and remove whatever blocks we need. You can. I'm going to remove some blocks, say for abundance for people if that's what they want, because you're manifesting in that way. Because you're removing doesn't mean that you can't bring things in. And I know that's what you were saying. I'll
Yep.
make some moon water under the super moon, put some crystals in a beautiful bottle and just put it underneath the moon.
Yep. I agree. So I have a 10-year-old and I call her the little witch. And if you follow me, you'll see every once in a while I'll post some pictures. She's come to her own accord and asked me this morning, Mom, can we put some moon water out tonight? Can we get some moon water going? And I was like, well, yes, we can. So she knew, right? She
Yes,
knew what we were doing before I even thought about it.
I have some little witches also, and when they're here, they're my grandchildren. They don't live in the state, but we'll dance. We'll dance under the full moon, and we'll think about what we want, and we'll hold hands. And they're just. I love looking through everything through our little witch's eyes. It's just
Yes.
they're just
Yep.
so fun and.
Yep. And sometimes they surprise you with what they say, i.e., this morning as we're talking about moon water. And I'm like, oh, yeah, we got to do that tonight. Absolutely. Because, as a normal human being who are, a mom who has things that we juggle and we try to do, and a grandma for you, and doing all the things, or are you a meme?
I'm a nonna.
Oh, you're a nonna. Oh, okay. All right. But,
I feel like I need a little kerchief, but
yeah, yep. You need a mapina hanging over so you can, on a spoon, get out of my gravy. um, but we have lives. We do these things, And, we talk about all this energy work and we talk about all the things we do. We juggle so much, and we're human beings that just have a regular existence as well. And I think that it's not an intimidating thing to believe in yourself and to trust your intuition and to trust your energy, whether you're a medium or reader or not, because at the end of the day, we're all just human beings and we all just try to achieve what we can possibly achieve, you know?
Absolutely. The world is going so fast. Take time, listen to your intuition. Never go against your gut. Always take that moment and listen to that little voice.
Right. Right. And because that little voice is probably not going to steer you wrong,
No,
9 times out of 10, I would recommend it, and it's kind of what we're trying to instill in the people that we connect with and the people that we talk to within our own families as well. I know that my kids, if I say, don't get too worked up about that. It's not going to matter tomorrow. Trust your intuition. It's not worth it to get all worked up over or what have you. I think that it's important that we instill that with the people that we're talking to and that we're touching within our lives.
I love that. So true.
Hmm. Yep.
I
Yep.
heard one more thing for the full moon. I don't, this is a new one on me though. To change your sheets and make your bed fresh, because when we sleep, we're going to all different places. And that's where we mainly manifest into our healing work. So I'm going to give it a try. I've put
I think,
crystals in my pillowcase and done all kinds of things. Salt under my bed, but now
yeah.
I'm going to try this one out. I kind of like.
Uh, You're the second person today. I had a client earlier that said that today she changes her sheets on the full and the new moon. I'm sure, and other times too. But she's always makes sure that she does that. And I was like, huh, mental note. That's a good idea. I'm gonna have to remember that.
Hey, I'm going to
Change everybody's sheets.
one. Add that to my little bag of tricks.
Exactly, my little grimoire, if you will. Um, but I think that's a great way of looking at it. We do astro project. We're in different kind of planes. We're in different kind of dream mode, and we're doing all these crazy things when we're asleep, because when we're asleep we're at the lowest form of consciousness that our body just uses to keep moving, in the sense of breathing and our blood to flow, right? We're not thinking about anything, we're not trying to do anything physical, we're just sleeping. We're at the lowest form of rest, and that's when a lot of, going back to those downloads, that's when a lot of those downloads come, within our dream state.
Absolutely.
Hmm. I had a dream last night about,
I was going to say, that's
um,
why you're tired. You've been doing a lot of work at night.
yeah, I guess so. I had a dream last night about a person I haven't seen in a really long time, and I thought about it today. And the dream is so vivid, so clear, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's an ominous dream or that's something that I need to be like, be warned, this is going to transpire. It just means that maybe I need to connect with that person. Maybe I just need to, for my own energetic kind of fulfillment, I need to just say, hey, I was thinking of you, that kind of a thing.
Do you think it could have been a little visit?
Could have been. Sometimes that happens too. It has been known to occur, I'm sure with you as well.
Yes.
And sometimes those visits are not our people. I do find that sometimes the visits from the other side within dream mode are for clients that are coming. It happens that way, where I'll be like, I don't know who this person is, and then all of a sudden, the loved one is sitting in front of me, and I'll be like, I know exactly who that person is now.
A little bit of precognition.
Perhaps. Yep. They're like, oh, the light is on. Let's go in there. She's open for business.
I'm going to get in this month.
I've been waiting. She's been booked solid. It happens though, and hopefully tonight I will rest, but probably not. But we are going to make some moon water. You're going to change your sheets. Is there any other tips or tricks?
It just depends on my mood, but I don't do something consistent. A lot of times I put my crystals out because they do need a little cleansing, and the moon water. The sheets I'm definitely going to do. A lot of times I write things down to what I want to release, and then I might burn the paper.
Mhm.
I love lavender sometimes I'll just spray lavender on my pillows and just
Mhm. Right,
when I go to
right.
sleep, set my intentions.
Yep, yep. We make moon water. Now we're gonna start changing the sheets, but we also do that, write our intentions down. Sometimes I burn it and sometimes I don't.
Do you,
Sometimes
I almost forgot about it. My bathtub is broken right now, but when it was working, which I have to get it back working again, a nice ritual soak with candles, beautiful herbs, you
Mhm.
know, clean your chakras, put a little salt, sea salt, let it all go down the drain.
Right. Yep. I definitely do that, but not I don't think that the full moon is a time that I would typically do that. I'm usually too pooped, because that's how it affects me. 9 times out of 10, I'm tired.
I
Um,
usually am. I don't know
mhm.
why I'm not this full moon, but a lot of times, yes, I feel like every fiber in my being is just drained.
Right. I agree. Um, but what else was I gonna I just had something on the tip of my tongue. Oh, so I also put out some of my cards. Now, as a reader, and you totally understand this, we have decks upon decks upon decks of all different kinds of cards. And sometimes if one deck is not necessarily kind of jiving with what I think it should do, in the sense of maybe it's a little mucky, a little murky, I'll stick that outside under the full moon.
Oh, absolutely. I have a whole bowl ready to go. It's right here. I don't know if you see it.
There's the bowl. There's the bowl.
Oh, ready to go with my
Ready to go.
crystal.
Ready to go.
I
So,
think I better put some rocks on top of the cards though, so they don't crystals. I shouldn't call them rocks. I'm sorry.
I know they're gonna get mad. No,
They are my.
I
What are you talking about?
we're not
We're
rocks.
crystals.
So, Jarlin, it has been awesome talking to you and just kind of shooting the breeze with you today about this full moon, about different things that we have going on, and about mediumship in general. Where can the general public find you if they want to book a reading or find you at any of the events that you're doing or any of the places you'll be at?
I'm on Facebook right now, and it's Intuitive Readings by Geraldine. And I'm on Facebook. You can message me. I know I'm really a hermit. I really am such a hermit, but I am so happy to be out tonight and able to talk with you. And I also can be reached, I wrote my business card, but by my phone number, which is on Facebook or Instagram. That's basically usually
Okay.
word of mouth. But thank you so much for
Oh my goodness.
and
Thank you. It,
thank you for having me on.
it's been a pleasure. And I think that what you are doing and your energy is amazing. I appreciate you being here tonight. And I appreciate everybody who's watched tonight. And if you haven't already, I did tag you when I did post the link for the video for the podcast for tonight. And to everybody out there, if you don't follow Geraldine, you should. She posts the best memes. Let me tell you, I'm a meme stealer and I steal her memes all the time, or I'll just repost or I'll share them.
Oh, I love
You
it. Thank you.
you're the best. You're the best. You have the best metaphysical witchy vibe memes. Even just that affirmation. If you don't follow her, please do. She's amazing. Intuitive readings by Jarlin. Thank you so much,
Thank
and
you.
I will see you guys next Tuesday. We'll have another guest on, and we'll be talking some metaphysical stuff. The witch doctor, as some of my clients have known me to be. We'll talk more about what that looks like. And thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful evening and happy Tarot Tuesday.
Bye bye. Thank you.